They called him the Diesel.
Crank up that diesel. Let's go.
He leaned across the table and he goes, "You need to get me back there. I'll make you famous."
And to Riggins, good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone. He's gone.
It's Riggo, the Diesel.
Welcome to episode 73 overall, and this would be season 2, episode 33 of Riggo, the Diesel. I am John Riggins, and Larry Michael joins me from his home. This is a little bit different circumstances, so it's going to be a little bit of a different show, but hopefully we'll be able to entertain you for the next 30 minutes or less, whichever comes first. Larry, good to see you.
Good to see you, John. How's your family doing over there?
Obviously, since the last time we did this, and I'm just wondering how your daily activities have been going, i.e. during your work week as opposed to your weekend.
Well, we're continuing to work. Real proud of the crew. And Stevie, who is producing this, has done a great job. I'm going to brag about Stevie here for about 30 seconds because she's done a great job. She's kept Redskins Nation on the air. We haven't missed a show. We've been ahead of things. We've had a lot of news with all the free agents. We're doing it from home. I have been able to get out outside the facility to shoot some tracks with Blaze Basil, who's doing a great job. All of our people doing a great job. And we're not working at Redskins Park, as everybody knows. You know, the NFL has said no work out of the facilities. And really the reason I think they did that is to try to maintain that equal footing when it comes to preparation for the draft. I know you want to talk about the draft, Riggo, and actually business has been rolling on in the National Football League. Had free agency right on time. We'll get to that a little bit later. We got the draft coming up in a few weeks.
Right.
And the commissioner said that they're gonna go ahead with the draft. What are your thoughts on going ahead with all these different activities? Of course, the draft in Vegas isn't going to happen. There's going to be a virtual way they're going to do it. But business moves on.
Well, it's funny. Actually, let's back up just a second, because what I wanted to do is talk about a little bit of things I've been doing. You know, my day really hasn't changed much, other than the fact that I now have my youngest daughter who does her school. You know, she has classrooms. She's going to class in her bedroom. My oldest daughter, she's going to work in her bedroom, and my wife goes to work in the office, and me and the cats have still got our same schedule. But we are a little bit cramped during the day because we've got 3 extra people here. It's throwing our cycle off. But what I wanted to get to is I've been out. I go out about once every 2 days to get groceries. And I found that I went to Costco the other day, and I saw in there, Larry, that they had a sign up that said Tuesdays and Thursdays was seniors. For seniors, you could come early. Like, it opens at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I got to thinking, I think that's what I'm going to do, because I'm shopping with the youngsters now. But see, if I go in there with the older folks, if I see a guy that's 60, I'll probably, give him a little space. But if you're my age or older and you got my loaf of bread, guess who's going to get that bread? I'm going to just be like taking candy from a baby. Anyway, let's get back to what you were talking about. I think that originally I kind of thought, well, now the commissioners kind of made an edict here that we're going to go ahead with the draft. And if you don't like it, that's fine, but you can't talk about it. Keep it to yourself. Otherwise, there may be disciplinary actions. And I kind of thought, well, that seems a little like we're just going to kind of thumb our nose at everybody else shutting down. But then when I thought about it a little bit more, I said, well, there's a lot of things going on here, and I think it's worth mentioning. One is, I think a lot of people, and in particularly troops, they look forward to news about the NFL and what's going on with their teams. I mean, I've talked to so many of them with my wife, being executive vice president with the USO Metro here, that's a way for them to keep in touch with home. And so, when you look at the big picture and the fact that it's going to be a virtual draft, then I'm kind of thinking, well, it is a good idea, because I think in times like this, the fantasy world has been taken away. There's no baseball, there's no hockey, there's no basketball. The NFL is going to step in with what, basically is a big off-season deal for them, which is the draft, and they're going to go ahead business as usual. So, I wish them well, I wish them luck, and I think it is the right thing to do.
I think so too, and I think in talking with Kyle Smith prior to all this happening, He talked about how the preparation for this draft began back in May of 2019, and we got through the combine. So really, what do these teams miss? They miss the pro days, and they miss the visits, because a lot of teams will bring some of the top picks in to the facility and have another meeting with them, another conversation. And so, but everything else is pretty much a level playing field. And what you really needed to see happen before you could really do your final research on the draft is who you get in free agency. Now you know a little bit better maybe at the end of the draft who you might need for depth purposes. I think the Redskins have brought a lot of good players in. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And even though we're not at the facility and the teams won't be at the facility, who knows by then what might happen. You're talking about April 23rd. There's a possibility, I guess, we could get back to work by then. But it's going to have to be done virtually, just like me and you. Riggo, listen, me and you were doing a podcast on technology that I was not aware existed 3 weeks ago. Didn't even know.
Well, and I guess probably from watching television, we've discovered that this is possible because almost every interview you see on any of the news outlets is being done the same way we're doing this, that people are at home and they're not in the studio and they're, life goes on basically. It's funny we talk about that because I read an article, and it occurred to me a couple of days before I read the article, that, it makes me wonder if there's going to be, if you own commercial real estate, you might want to dump it, because now that, it's almost like the genie's out of the box. People are working from home now. I don't know how productive they are, but I got to, to a certain extent, I've read this, that it may change the way business is done around the world with this virus forcing everybody into their homes. That, well, what's the real need of going to an office if you're accomplishing the same thing? So it could be a sign of the future. I have no idea. I'm kind of leaning thinking maybe it is. But,
but I'll say this, a football team can't do that.
No.
Football team's got to be on that field. Football team has to meet together. It's very important to get that chemistry. And in this regard, every team's the same, but this team is a new team, really. You got a new coaching staff. So, the challenge is to be able to get all that information out to all the players wherever they may be. I've talked to some of the free agents. We'll go over the list later, but I've asked them all, what are you going to do to work out? Some guys don't even have weights at home. I mean, I got a whole big setup here, I don't know what you got there, maybe any kind of treadmill or whatever. You got some good stuff there. I got the same thing because we work out at home. That's what we do. But players go to gyms. If your gym's closed, I talked to a guy the other day. I won't say who it is. He goes, I have absolutely no weights. They can do some chin-ups and some push-ups like Herschel Walker used to. So they're going to have to find a way to get ready.
It's something you brought up earlier that I wanted to hit on, and that is, as we talk about the draft, to me, I'm thinking if you're, coaching staff and your scouts and all that, I mean, really right now at this time, going back a couple of weeks, because I think, was about 3 weeks ago, you were in Indianapolis, maybe 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You get an X amount of players there. Certainly isn't all of them that are available to be, become professional football players. But you wonder the depth of analysis this year in the draft class, just how deep it can go, because obviously these pro days, when you either go to their school and look at them in depth a little bit more, or you bring them in and want to talk to them, you're not going to be able to do that. So I'm wondering if in some ways that it simplifies things because there's not going to be as much data to look at. Has gone. And so you're really kind of it's going to be more like gut feelings and what you see in a player, maybe word of mouth with the coaches and all that, to which way you're going to go. Obviously there were rumors, I don't want to address them necessarily, but what Washington could do with their number 2 overall pick. And still that's up in the air. No one really knows for sure, but my guess would be that they will probably just stay at the number 2 pick, and all likelihood, it looks like Chase Young would be the guy, as opposed to doing some stuff and maybe drafting a quarterback, which, kind of be basically what Arizona did the year before when they drafted a quarterback in the first round, then took a quarterback in the first round the very next year. I don't think we're going to see that.
I think before we take this quick break,
okay.
I feel real confident that the Redskins, from what Kyle Smith has told me, and I know how these guys operate, they really started grinding last year. So all the hard work has been done. They've met so many times. I can't tell you how often I've seen the scouts in their meeting. So good news, I think, for the Redskins are that the preparation for the draft has really already taken place. These guys are going to be ready April 23rd. I don't know if a lot of moves change on their board in the final 3 weeks leading up to the draft. Maybe something from free agency might impact a decision you make on the day of the draft. So anyway, want to remind our friends out there who are watching, thank you so much for watching Riggo the Diesel. Appreciate all of our partners too. Whether on the field or the classroom, the Redskins believe learning should be fun. That's why the Redskins have partnered with youth entrepreneurs, bring their engaging hands-on style of learning to classrooms in the DC metro area. Youth Entrepreneurs curriculum was created by educators for educators. That means it's flexible, fun, absolutely free. To learn more about youth entrepreneurs and how to experience for yourself, visit getye.org. And again, thank you to youth entrepreneurs for being a part of the Redskins family.
All right. Well, I've been telling you for the longest time about O'Connor Plumbing, and I would say that I still believe in this company, and they're taking extra precautions right now during this time to make sure everything they do, if you have a problem and it's an emergency and they need to come to your house, that when they show up, that everything is sanitized. They wear their boots, they wear their covers on their shoes. They operate with their gloves on, and they will put you at ease in case you need to call them. 1-833-RIGGO-44. 833-RIGGO-44, O'Connor Plumbing.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand back and watch the Phoenix rise from the ashes.
Stand back. It's Riggo the Diesel.
As we were going here, Larry, we're talking about the draft somewhat, and then we kind of rolled into a little bit of free agency. And as that comes to mind, I think there's one topic that we've discussed in the past, and it still exists, and that is Trent Williams and exactly what's going to happen with Trent Williams. And there was just an article, I think, yesterday in the local paper here talking about all the possibilities of, what could or couldn't happen. His agent has been on the radio locally and said a few things. And my position has always been all along that all things being equal and based on Trent's service to the NFL and his track record in the last several years of maybe not making it through the entire season of injury would give me a moment of pause, and also based on the fact that he's not been with the team for this long and that he'd like to see his contract renegotiated, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you can answer this question because I'm not exactly sure. If he wanted to come back and play under the existing terms of his contract, then he would be welcome to come back and start over again. Am I wrong in something there or not?
I think fundamentally you're right. I think that a lot has happened, obviously, and if you listen to the agent, he makes it sound as though there is no option here. I think he's trying to force the issue a little bit. The Redskins obviously made a commitment to Trent, and he does have a contract. I don't know the status of what he might be looking for in the future. There are some who think that his demands in terms of future salary are putting the kibosh, so to speak, on some of the potential deals. Now, if you listen to the agent on the radio yesterday, listen to the whole thing. He was on with Grant Danny, and he talked about, how they had some offers. They had tried to drum up some trades, and they had some, but it wasn't good enough for the Redskins to pull the trigger. And I say, what's wrong with that? I mean, the Redskins have invested in Trent. He is a good player, very good player, Pro Bowler, and you're going to want to get something commensurate in return. So it's a very interesting situation. John, I might relate to you. It's a much different situation for you, but how much is a player relying on that representative? And how close do you have to be to that representative to really go this far with somebody and have him speak for you? I'm sure they're close, or they wouldn't be together. But it's kind of that issue that a public negotiation sometimes never works.
Yeah. Now you're referencing his agent, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I never had one, so I can't really relate to what he may or may not be going through. But obviously, the first thing you think of, good cop, bad cop. The agent goes out and presents the image that, hey, this is what it's got to be, and this isn't working out, and we've got this, and the team's not cooperating. And Trent, he sits back and basically, doesn't really say anything one way or the other as far as potentially alienating anyone. But it's an interesting situation because on the one hand, I mean, given his track record as far as injury goes, you'd kind of think, I would have to believe that there, unless it's kind of one of those deals where there's some kind of retribution from his frame of reference as far as how he feels that his medical situation was mismanaged a year and a half ago in the off season. That, you know, one of those deals where, well, I can stay in Washington, but you need to pay me more. I may be willing to go to another team with a fresh start for less money. And, you know, if that's the case, then you got to let the guy go. I don't know, though, from Washington's standpoint, based on the very reasons that you wouldn't go, you know, let's just say he was a 5-year player and he's never missed a game, and for whatever reason these same circumstances prevailed, he's on the rise. Well, you might have to think about, well, okay, he's got a point. We've misdiagnosed. Let's give him a little bit more money. But he's been out of the game for a year. He'll be out of it for at least 18 months, not 20 months when the season starts again. That you have to look at and go, well, the teams that you may trade him to, they're well aware of that, and they're not going to offer you what you know, like, this is where it gets kind of weird. On the one hand, you don't want to give Trent Williams any more money. At the same time, you want another team to overpay for him, so to speak. So somewhere, they've got to find that middle ground and come to some kind of an agreement. Because ultimately, I think at this point that I don't want to say that his talent is tapering, but I think that he's less reliable, perhaps is the best way to say it, than he once was. And I think Washington needs to take that in consideration. They say there's some good talent in the draft this year at that position. So I don't know, maybe at some point, and I'm sure it will happen, that the team will, you know, maybe decide that, you know, whatever the case is, we've got to move Trent Williams and let's just find the best deal we can. And I would also offer this, that it seems odd to me that they're telling Trent Williams to find his trade when I would think the team could actually seek one from another team in the NFL and work it out for themselves and just say, this is your new team.
Yeah, but it might be a two-piece combo here, though. It might be the value of the trade, but what contract extension could be offered by that given team, and it's not up to the Redskins to negotiate that contract if they're going to take a pick or some kind of compensation in return in a trade. So really, we don't know what's being offered. We don't know what the contract what they might be looking for in the future. So we just speculate. But I'll say this: you know, Ron Rivera's got a job to do. He's got a team to coach. And I think he's done everything he possibly can to improve the football team. And I think he's done a real good job with Trent Williams as well, because, you know, you just don't want to you're just going to cut him. You're going to cut him. He's under contract. It really makes no sense to anybody to do that. So we'll have to wait and see. It could be that the draft forces a hand on a trade or something. Maybe the longer it goes, something's got to give sooner or later, I guess, though, right?
Well, yeah, but let me ask you this, Larry. He's due, I think I saw it just in the article, what, $18 million for this year or something close to it, or 16, but anyway, it's a lot of money for at least the way I look at things. But he's under contract, as you said, but he's wanting to get an extension, but I don't see, the team can't trade him right now and just whoever they trade him to, in other words, then obviously, if he doesn't report and retires, in other words, the team that would take him on, and he can't come to terms with that team, when he ends up retiring, it all turns out the same for Washington, regardless, doesn't it? I mean, they wouldn't obviously get the draft pick, but at the same time, you at least get him out of your hair. There's something there that I'm not quite grasping as far as the ability to trade him. You get the best, in other words, if they didn't get the best trade offer they can get, they trade him. That's the new team's problem as far as his contractual demands may go.
That could ultimately be the way it ends up. Obviously, they want to get the most they can for a very good football player, and it's a position of need. Obviously, if he's not going to be on the team, who's going to be your left tackle? So they've got to get assets in return for him, and we'll see how it unfolds. After a quick break, I want to go through a very rapid-fire look at the Redskins free agents, and also we have not been on the air because of the situation since the CBA had been ratified, and that's a topic very close to your heart. So let's do some business here real quick and get to that. 75 tons of game day trash and recyclables need to find a home. So when the final whistle blows, our team hits the field as an official partner of the Washington Redskins. RTS is connecting FedEx Field with smarter waste solutions to ensure a more sustainable and responsible approach to what's left behind at the end of a game. RTS is a better waste company. Find out more at rts.com. And also, did you know that the Washington Redskins are sponsored by Koch Industries? That's Koch, Koch. 67,000 U.S. employees make a lot of things on game day better. Greener turf, they make that. Stronger paper products for tailgating, they make that. Electronic components and TVs and smart devices so you can watch the Redskins anywhere. Yeah, Koch makes that too. See all they make for on and off the field at kochmakesthat.com. And don't forget, stay connected with the Redskins this offseason. Follow redskins.com. Follow at the Redskins on Instagram and Twitter. And for team news and exclusive content, get that Redskins app. And I'm really proud to be working for an organization that's been putting out such great content here. We've been cranking it out with all these free agents, John, and it's been gratifying. The team has worked very hard, and I think the fans are appreciative.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Riggins. He's going to go all the way, unless Blackwood can catch him, and he can't.
They left the scoreboard out there. I remember seeing Redskins 27, Dolphins 17. And it was that moment of truth where I went, damn, I'm a world champion.
John, when he walked, he had a little bop to him. And besides that, he had the booty out there. They nicknamed him Chocolate Chip.
Story time with Riggo.
And as we were saying, we just we took a break talking about the free agency situation. And then
I'm gonna give you a name. I know you're not up on all these guys, but you know some of them. Redskins make a move. They signed Kendall Fuller, who was traded away a couple years ago. He played for a Super Bowl winning team. He's a better player now than when he left. What are your thoughts on that move?
I think it's a great move. He was very familiar when he left here. They had a deal. I don't know exactly how he felt at the time about the trade. Sometimes that can be a sore spot with folks. But obviously it can't be too sore. He's back with the team, after winning the Super Bowl with the Chiefs. And he was certainly a guy I thought at the time when he was traded, it looked like an up-and-comer. So obviously he still looks like he's going to fit very well into the defensive plans of the team this year.
And the Redskins brought John Bostic back. He had 105 tackles last year. I was really impressed when things really didn't go well. He was always up front, very, very accountable guy. And that's the kind of guy I think Ron Rivera wants in the football team, a guy that is reliable, dependable, and available. And he didn't miss a game, and that's really important.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, I think, Larry, is I just read this the other day, as far as Ron Rivera goes, that one of the things that actually made him, I don't know if it was the one that pushed him over the line, but after he reviewed a lot of film of watching the team play last year, he was very impressed with a lot of the people, and I'm sure it was particularly on defense, that they never quit. They kept playing. And that was I think that was an impetus for him to says, these are the guys I think I can coach. I think I can help these guys get to the next level. And he obviously was talking about one of the guys he was talking about was Bostic. So I think that's another good move that they've made at the linebacker position, bringing him back. They also brought in what I think Sean Davis is a safety that they brought in here.
Yes.
They're, looking to, improve their secondary, which is obviously anything you can do there is always a good move. So I think things are shaping up pretty well, really, for, the team. But once again, there are no OTAs. That you don't know what's going to happen. There's not going to be any mini camps or any of that stuff. So, I don't know. I suppose if and when, and, you never know what report you get, the president says in quadrants, which this would be interesting, Larry. Let's just say you heard this yesterday, I think, that President Trump was saying that maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, some quadrants of the country can maybe get back to work. I got to believe the commissioner would say, well, that may be fine. Let's just say that, Kansas and Nebraska and, area in the Midwest. I would think the commissioner would say, well, that's fine, but the Chiefs and the Broncos, you guys still can't go. In other words, to get an unfair advantage because everything's being opened up where you got people on the East Coast that are still in lockdown, I'm sure that that's something that they have to consider.
Well, they've been considering it during this preparation for the draft. One of the reasons I think they don't want people in the building is the folks that might live in an area that might be heavily impacted. They're going to go back to work and meet as a group, and because their local direction is you can meet. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's worth noting also the Redskins put the non-exclusive tag on Brandon Sheriff. He will be back. And they also signed Wes Schweitzer, who's another guard, played for the Falcons. So other than that tackle position, which we talked about before, They're kind of trying to bolster that line a little bit.
Well, that obviously, I mean, and so far, maybe the draft is where they address this, or maybe something has slipped past me because I got to say that I haven't been every day staying up to date on everything. But as of now, is there a tight end in the building, the figurative building right now, or is that still a position that needs to be addressed?
Well, the Redskins side Logan Thomas, and he is he's a good player. He's a former quarterback from Virginia Tech. He's played in the league as a tight end. He got converted. And he's a big Redskin fan, grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia. And the Redskins played Detroit last year, and Logan Thomas played well. Is he your starting tight end? Is he your lead guy? He played a lot. He played all 16 games last year for the Detroit Lions. But again, you still have the draft. There's still some players out there. So there are some positions. You got a couple tackles that were brought in. One was announced today, Cornelius Lucas. Eric Flowers, of course, left by way of free agency. There's Jeremy Vujanovic. That's another guy who was brought in as a tackle. But the Redskins have added a lot of depth. I will say this. They brought in 2 running backs, J.D. McKissick, who played a lot for Detroit last year, and Peyton Barber, who's played the last 4 years for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Very good football players. So when it comes to running back, Bryce Love is coming back from an injury. Geis is coming back. You got AP. All of a sudden, you're going to have some competition at that running back position, which wasn't there prior to the start of free agency.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, though, is it's kind of in a strange way, ultimately, though, the NFL is now a passing league. And it almost seems like, yes, there's times when you need a running back to get done what needs to be done. But for the most part, they're at the bottom of the food chain, believe it or not. It's hard for me to accept, 30 years out of the game that the position you used to play, you're down there, I don't know what the deep snapper gets in his salary, but I don't believe that, he's at the top of the food chain, but you're pretty low down. But clearly they have all kinds of options right there. I think really when you look at the season, you look at the offense, it all gets down to Dwayne Haskins and his development. And, you got a great wide receiver in McLaren, so you got a great start there. I mean, and you can bring in Sheriff, you got him, with the tag on him, and he's going to be in your offensive line. Things can go pretty good, but I think the real emphasis, particularly with a coach like Ron Rivera, is on defense. The theory being if the team can't score, well, the worst you're going to do is you're going to end up with a tie, which, isn't really realistic. But the point being is you don't put all that much pressure on your offense to have to put points on the board. So,
Sam Huff is smiling somewhere.
What's that? Yes.
Sam Huff is smiling somewhere.
Exactly.
All right, Riggo, I want to tee up before we wrap up this edition of Riggo the Diesel. You, Lisa Marie, very active in the pre-93 alums as this new CBA got done. I'll let you tell me and tell our viewers here who consume Redskins content and Riggo the Diesel. How good did this turn out for the pre-93 group?
Well, I think like anything else, Larry, it would have been. Well, first of all, let me start by saying originally FAIR, which was formed by my wife, Lisa Marie, about 3 years ago now. It's coming up on 3 years this fall. And, slowly but surely, I think that, she got a lot of attention of a lot of the older pre-93 players. But originally it was to increase the benefit, just the actual retirement benefit, which is the Burt Bell plan for pre-93 players. Well, there was other groups that one of them was the 3-year players who were not vested in the NFL. You had to play 4 years. They changed that. So this group will share in part of this new increase in the retirement benefit. And then the players from 1993 to 2011, they had a lot of extra benefits, but they're also going to share in the increase in the Burt Bell plan because that's a part of there. So it diluted it somewhat for the pre-93 guys. But having said that, it still is going to be a bump that I think a lot of these guys certainly are going to be very appreciative of. And no one knows for sure. Lisa Marie and I have talked about it. How much impact FAIR had. You have to assume that you made some people aware, and that's all that matters. Because really, what it got down to, it was the owners recognized the need, and I think the current players recognized the need. The union did. And they did what they should have done. So, we thank them for recognizing this group of players and what their contributions to the game. And now we move forward, and I wait for April 1st for my new check to get here.
Okay.
Yes,
Hey, Riggo,
it's coming.
you should put the money you make, you should put it into more technology for your home, because I'm very impressed on how you've adapted to do this podcast like this. So who knows, with more equipment, who knows what you could do.
I think I still need a lot of work, Larry, but I appreciate the compliment. You're right at home, as obviously. And you know what? We haven't heard from the peanut gallery today.
Let's hear from them. Wait, Todd, are you still there?
What'd I miss? Hey, just two quick observations before any commercial real estate folks start selling their buildings. Riggo, addressing the fact that, if this becomes potentially a new way of life for people working at home, I got to believe, I feel confident saying the divorce rate in this country is going to skyrocket.
There's the voice of optimism.
And the birth rate. It's going to go one of two ways there. And
that's a good party shot.
Back in love, or they're going to realize they were never in love to begin with.
Everybody be safe.
All right. Take care, Larry. Always good to see you. Stevie, thank you very much. Stevie Katz, our producer.
Have you heard about Creighton Farms, the private club community that's home to the Redskins? Creighton Farms is just 20 minutes from Dulles, but a world away. On top of its award-winning Jack Nicklaus signature golf course, pools, tennis courts, and other resort-style amenities, you'll find custom homes and villas that are simply extraordinary, starting at $1.5 million. For property and legal information, visit CreightonFarms.com, or, better yet, visit Creighton Farms.
From the desert to the coast, every Honda is inspired by our racing spirit and ready for any kind of road. From stylish turbocharged sedans like the Accord and Civic, to rugged all-wheel drive SUVs like the CR-V, HR-V, Pilot, and Passport. With safety features like Honda Sensing, including a collision mitigation braking system, adaptive cruise control, Honda Lane Watch, and more. Get a great deal on your favorite racing-inspired Honda. Race to WashingtonAreaHondaDealers.com today to learn more.
Dear customer service, I can always count on Novak. My power is always on, my payments always go through, and Novak actually cares about the community they serve.
Dear Novak, your electric costs are reasonable. Some electricity is from alternative sources, and cost reductions are passed along during the year. Thanks.
Novak, power you can count on.
Hey Redskins Nation, this is the old pro Darryl Green. How many of you out there are tired of dealing with the big banks who answer your phones with that dreaded recording? Press 1, press 2, press 3. If you want personal customer service, I recommend giving Main Street Bank a call. I promise you, your call will be answered by a person and not a robot. And you'll be treated with the courtesy you deserve. I know, I'm a founding director of Main Street Bank. So try us out. Visit mstreetbank.com. We bank where you breathe. Member FDIC.